This is the vivo V20, and in this video we'll be unboxing and sharing all of the specs and features that this device has. The first thing you get in the box is the device itself, and we'll come to it later. I like the well-designed paper box it comes with, and inside it is where we get the rubber case, the SIM ejector tool, and the quick start guide, and the information/warranty card. Last but not least is the technical specifications, quite pictorial and detailed. Taking the wrap off of the device itself welcomes you to the beautiful gradient. It's the super colorful and well-designed device in my opinion, and this is high up in my list already. You can see the camera cutout section with the 64 megapixel main lens and other cameras and flash, which we'll come to in a bit. Then the Vivo branding beneath. It's got a slim profile, and of course that camera section protrudes quite a bit, and still on the design you don't lose anything even when you put on the case. It took me about 50 seconds to boot and set up this device, which isn't bad, and when you get right in, you're ushered into Android 11. So yes, you've got the best of Android on here. As far as color options are concerned, you've got the Sunset Melody, which is the gradient look, and of course Midnight Jazz, which looks really solid in that matte black finish. There's also the option of Moonlight Sonata or white in some countries, and overall the color lineup looks solid. When it comes to the accessories in the box, we've got a huge 33-watt fast charger, USB-C cable, and headphones. Immediately I got this phone, I got an update as well, and that's an indicator that you're pretty much in safe hands, and you should expect system software updates for better performance in the long run. When it comes to the ports and I/O of the vivo V20 that we have here, on the top of the phone is where we've got the microphone. On the right side houses the volume rockers and the textured power button. We've got a headphone jack on the bottom of the phone, microphone, USB-C port, and the speaker, which gets really loud. The left side has the SIM and micro SD card tray, which is not hybrid, thankfully. Up top in front is where you've got the dual drop notch, which houses the massive 44 megapixel front facing camera, and the cameras are actually quite good. We'll get to that later. Above it is the quite wide earpiece for receiving calls. I know I've said it before, but I really like the gradient on this variant of the V20. The color just looks unique. Another thing I liked is that Vivo didn't just stop at the colors, but also the build quality material. It's actually glass on the front and back, and the glass on the back is a premium matte glass finish, and throughout my usage I didn't even try to use it without a case. I just had to cover this because it's this premium design and I didn't want to mess it up, and covering it up with the case doesn't hide the beauty. Wait till you hear the price. Basically, the designers asked Vivo, how many colors do you want? And Vivo said, well, yes. So they had all the colors. If you don't want to use a case, it feels reasonably thin and very comfortable to hold in your hands. You also notice that the camera section protrudes and it will rock on a flat surface, but that's not a big deal. On here, you've got an AMOLED display, a 1080p AMOLED display with a decent screen to body ratio of 83.7%. This 6.44-inch display does pack in some power, especially when you consider that it's a high pixel density display with 409 ppi or pixel per inch. When you do things like stream videos on here, you definitely have no regrets. The picture quality is aided by the fact that it's an AMOLED, and of course you can stream full HD on YouTube. For 159,000 naira, which is the price of the vivo V20, you deserve to get the best. Also guys, if you're finding this video so far useful, thank you so much for watching. Do hit that like button and consider subscribing and hitting the bell icon beside it so you'll be notified when I upload a new video. Now to the device. The speaker of the vivo V20 was quite loud, as I said, and it also had sound vibrations from the back of the phone. However, it's a single speaker. You might block it when you're playing games or watching videos, and it really dampens the sound. When it comes to the unboxing experience of the Y20, the first thing you get is a smaller box with paperwork and a signature tool. Right underneath it. To counter this, you can just use the earpiece which comes in the box. Music was good on here, the loudspeaker delivers, and while the headphones aren't the highest end, they do the job. Day-to-day use for me was splendid. It was an easy phone to operate really. Android 11 feels very familiar. You don't lose anything, you gain some. It's the normal 60Hz refresh rate phone, so it's still familiar, but the AMOLED makes a lot of elements pop out and overall adds to the enjoyable nature or usage of your phone. For phone calls or texting, you're covered as well. I didn't experience connection issues, so yeah, multitasking was also quite good. Resuming apps where you left off was also good. This is thanks to the RAM, the huge RAM, which we'll get to in a bit. When it comes to security, you've got face unlock, which was fast. It would work in dim lights as well, and of course your on-screen fingerprint reader, which shines a light on your thumb or the registered finger. It's quite fast as well. There are no hindrances on here. Speaking of the RAM, you've got a whopping 8 gigs of RAM, plenty for your heavy tasks, and of course the option of 128 gigs or 256 gigs of storage. I have the 256 gigabyte option, which I think is plenty for most people. Of course, you've got Android 11 on here based on Vivo's clean FunTouch OS 11. Processor wise, you've got the Qualcomm Snapdragon 720G, an 8nm processor, and it blew through heavy tasks with ease. Even the benchmarking software like Slingshot Extreme with heavy 3D rendering and graphics showed minimal to no signs of lag, and it consistently hit high numbers when it comes to the result, almost 70% in terms of performance level. Speaking of 3D, gaming with the vivo V20 had very good renders. It was also really smooth, and of course the graphic quality was high with no existent lags throughout my usage. If you want the highest frame rate, you get high graphics but not the highest, and if you want the highest graphics, you would not get the highest frame rate, and that's just a trade-off. As you know, it has a single speaker, so you would block it when you're gaming or watching videos, but other than that, I thought gaming was really enjoyable. The speaker is loud enough to make the sound effects enjoyable for the games you play. As we always do in our reviews, playing Call of Duty lost 8% of battery life in 30 minutes of heavy duty gaming. In another 30 minutes, I lost 5%. Basically, 1 hour of gaming would make you lose 13% of battery life on average. And a lot of other brands I've tested would actually lose more in 30 minutes. What is even cooler is that you have a huge, tall 33 watt fast charger. I even tweeted about how cool this charging was, and charging on here was super fast. Here's how charging went. From 0% to a whopping 75% in 30 minutes, and it went all the way up to 99% in just 15 minutes later. It went fully charged 5 minutes after that, so in total you have only 49 minutes to fully charge this from 0%, or only 30 minutes to get this up to 75% from 0%, and that will save you a whole lot. You could even judge by the reactions of people on Twitter when I posted it. Battery usage overall was pretty good enough for me. I mostly took this phone out for camera stuff, recording outdoors, calls, and gaming. And during my usage, I did find I got a full day's use before I plugged it in. And, with the huge charger, I had all the confidence I needed to be sure that I was covered in case there was an urgency. When it comes to the cameras of the vivo V20, I personally think that you can't go wrong with this phone. Right up front, you've got a 44 megapixel selfie camera that shoots 4K and 1080p both in 30 frames per second. Slow motion video in 240 fps, although it's in 720p, and as you probably guessed it takes super high resolution photos as well. The front facing camera has face tracking, which is nice, especially for focusing, and that gives you benefits for proper exposure. When it comes to the rear camera, we've got a 64 megapixel main sensor that is the biggest looking sensor on the back. You've got the 8 megapixel ultra wide 2 megapixel depth sensor, or the mono sensor as Vivo calls it. Of course, it's all accompanied by a dual LED flash, which you can shoot 4K at 30 fps on the back, or 1080p in both 30 and 60 fps or frames per second. Selfies were so sharp on the vivo V20. In fact, the textures and smoothness are very commendable. If you are more interested in phones for selfies, this is high up in my list. Be careful though, because this phone's portrait mode comes with the beauty filter turned on automatically out of the box, or else if you don't turn it off, you will get selfies that look like this. I also couldn't get my portrait mode to work well, but I think it's because it's a review unit and updates can easily fix this. Like many smartphones with an ultra wide camera, which is an 8 megapixel sensor in this case, is not at all the sharpest of the bunch. The main camera has a 1000 pixel increase in resolution size than the ultra wide camera, and photos came out well. Of course, there's no telephoto lens on this phone, so everything builds up on the main lens. The 2x is only a crop of the main lens's shot because it's the same resolution as well, and the text get blurred. With the help of AI, you can get 10x zoom, which will still help you maintain some text and still uses the main lens, and it came out a bit legible. In order to get the maximum resolution of 44 megapixel on the front camera or 64 megapixel on the back camera, you will need to scroll all the way to the last option in the camera menu to select high resolution. And as I mentioned, this works for both the front and back camera. A 64 megapixel shot zoomed in deeply will show legible text, which is just a lot of detail. This will help with distance important shots for landscapes or for the purposes of later usage, maybe even print, and this image will go up to 20 megabytes of size on average. I like the shots I took outdoors because of the details and patterns, everything in between, and even up close to objects you will be able to piece out details from your shots. Indoors with shots of objects, there's a noticeable background blur on all the shots I took. Of course, there's a higher noise pattern in comparison to the images I took outside. At night, the camera nudges you to turn on night mode, and the results were interesting. The image with night mode took about 5 seconds to process, but it brought out the highlights, shadows, and even textures in what appears to be the thick of the night. I liked this and I thought it was cool, way better than just a normal shot. A simple differentiator in video quality, as I mentioned, is 1080p and 4K. 1080p video was smooth but not colorful enough, or it was a little desaturated. It looks usable and clear, of course, with the resolution of 1920 by 1080, which is full HD. 4K video on here was very clear and the colors were punchy. Unlike most cameras where 4K loses stabilization, this looks fairly stabilized. It's 3 times the size of the 1080p video in terms of storage space, and resolution was 3840 by 2160. You've also got slow motion video for both the front and the back camera, which looks fairly decent. I tested the front facing camera slow-mo and it wasn't so bad. How's it going, guys? So this is the front facing camera visual quality of the vivo V20. It records in 4K at 30 frames per second, as well as 1080p in 30 frames per second. It's a 44 megapixel front facing sensor. And yeah, let me know what you guys think about this visual quality that you currently see, as well as the sound quality, right in the comment section below. Vivo's full existence in Nigeria is becoming more evident, even though it's not thoroughly deep yet. This phone, the vivo V20, is priced at 159,000 naira or $340. I think it's all of the value for money you can get. The cameras are dope, except for the fact that portrait mode wasn't fully sorted, which can be done with an update. The build quality here is on point. The display, a 1080p AMOLED display, was very enjoyable to use for me. The battery life, while not the most amazing, is backed up by the super fast charging speed. Those highlights speak for themselves, as you can see in this video, and that's quite something. Would you get one? And do you think there's anything I missed in this video? Let me know in the comment section below. I'll be looking forward to answer your questions or comments. Do give this video a thumbs up if you found it useful. Consider sharing it to people who might have questions about the vivo V20, and also consider subscribing and hitting the bell icon beside it so you'll be the first to know when I post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the very next video.